Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Talking Yourself Off the Ledge. I'm Yvette.
I'm Tim.
And today's episode, it's a very special one for me because Tim is going to be sharing his story and his process through all the challenges that he has gone through. And I think it's really fascinating. And I'm so proud of how much you've grown over the past years that I've known you. And, I've heard your story. Um, but just seeing the transition that you've made and the growth that you've made through these years, it's really remarkable. And I'm really happy to know you today because you're my best friend and you're my husband, and you are a good son today, a good friend, a good coworker. And yeah, I'm excited for you to share your story with us.
Thank you. There's a lot of gushing. I'll take it. Yeah, I'm excited to do this as well. I'll give you a little background of just where I come from and how I grew up. I'm a family of five. I have two brothers. I'm the middle child.
Yeah.
And we grew up in a small town, very faith-based. We were in church a lot. We were actually homeschooled. Starting at fifth grade, I was homeschooled all the way up to high school, to the end of high school. So the way that it was done, my mom would actually buy the curriculum for each one of us. So the three different grades, each subject.
Wow. And she wasn't a teacher.
No, just dedicated.
Right.
Just dedicated.
Really loved you guys.
Yeah, willing. So yeah, she would buy all the curriculum, break it down over the summertime, determine what we needed to have accomplished by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Break it down by the month, by the week, by the day, in a master planner. We couldn't go play with our friends until we completed our schoolwork. We couldn't start our schoolwork until we completed our chores.
So she knew what she was doing.
Yeah. And I thrive in structure now. I love checklists, from that. And I don't mind doing chores. I don't mind doing laundry. I enjoy it. And it's almost, I grew up doing it. So, yeah, it was good. It was good structure.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm benefiting from it now.
Yeah. That's why it's like, leave me a list. Yeah, so like I said, we were in church a lot, so it was very faith-based. We were Christian, in church a lot, and had friends there. A lot of people do say, "Oh, homeschooled, how do you make friends, and how could you do this?" And I never had that issue. Me growing up, I was very outgoing. I was very energetic, very stubborn. A story of when I was young, I was like 5 years old, and no 5-year-old's allowed to play in the street.
Right.
So we would go outside to play, and I would beeline it to the street and sit down just like that, because I knew my mom would then chase me out to the street. I would turn around, run back in the house, and lock all the doors so I could play by myself.
Jesus Christ.
So that was just me. That was me at 5.
Wow.
Walking on the railing on the deck in my diaper or something, and my grandmother's babysitting. Tim, get off the railing. My mom lets me do it, and just
lies.
Oh yeah. No, she doesn't. Yes, she does. You can call her. Just always scamming, just trying to scam and get away with what I wanted to get away with. That was it.
Wow.
So yeah, had friends, played football, enjoyed that. Then got really into martial arts. Martial arts was big for me. I started it. I didn't want to do it. My younger brother wanted to do it, and my mom said, if he's going to do it, you're both going to do it together.
I wonder why Ben wanted to learn martial arts.
Yeah, there was a couple times being thrown down the stairs and bullied, and let's go play football together.
So he just wanted to learn how to defend himself against you.
Yeah, and it turned into me learning martial arts,
right,
to further beat him up. So, yeah,
he's pretty good too.
No, he's good. Yeah, we both got our black belts. I started at 12, something like that. And I started training and enjoyed it. One class and I was hooked. I absolutely loved it. I started helping out with birthday parties, teaching classes. And then I was more or less just kind of running the school. And I was 17, 18, 19, really learning a lot, learning great, phone skills, personal communication skills, leadership skills, just really good stuff.
And was it just kids or adults?
No, 3.5 to 72.
Wow.
72 was the oldest.
How old?
I was 17. and I tested him for his black belt.
That's pretty
70,
impressive.
72-year-old guy, old English man named Ashley. He was cool. Cool guy. 3.5 to 72. That was the range. Yep.
Wow.
So, I got into martial arts and I had a great time doing that. And it just didn't work out. Husband and wife ran the school and it just didn't work out. The marriage didn't work out, business didn't work out, split up. And that's when I started bartending and kind of started curricular activities. Started just, going out to the bars more, bartending, having fun. But how everything started for me, I was actually even younger. So even when I was 14, 15, I had a friend that unfortunately had an injury and was prescribed pain medication. And me and this friend just always were, we were okay, but kind of teenagers up to no good, just doing stupid things that most teenage boys do, just not the brightest things. And when he got that, we were close, we were really close. And when he got them, he was like, oh my God, dude, you got to try these. They're crazy. And if roles were reversed, it would have been the same way.
Right.
I probably would have been like, you got to try these. They're
and
crazy.
It was a major injury.
Yeah, it was a major injury. He needed them.
Right.
He needed them. But it was, we're 14, 15. Oh my God, this messes you up. You got to try it. It's crazy. And me, I'm like, yeah, all right. You taking one, I'll take two. Let's see what that does. And that was always my mentality, even young. So we just started that ball rolling. And so we used a lot of pain pills together, would drink and smoke weed here and there, stuff like that. But that's when kind of like opiates became a thing for me, pain pills. And I always had this little thing. I was always trying to scam it a little bit. It's like, well, don't do it 3 days in a row because that fourth day you won't feel good. It's just stuff like that. So yeah, all through that.
Trying to beat the system,
always, always. All through that, I was doing martial arts and I was, successful at that. And, but still just, getting my license and going 80 miles an hour on the wrong side of the road, my, third week of my license, and getting a $275 speeding ticket, like my first couple weeks with my license, just always go. And we were a little sheltered, nothing extreme, but I always had that little bit of like, if I'm going to break the rules, I'm going to break them to the max.
Right.
Because it's like that adrenaline rush.
It's like, if you have the chance, take it.
Right. If the door opens, I'm running through it. If I can crack that door open, I'm kicking through it and I'm running through. No, not a lot of self-control. That's one of the main, not a lot of impulse control or self-control. Even though I was taught it, I just didn't want to. I didn't think it was important for me.
And you were probably at that age that it was a little bit of like rebellion. It's like, oh, well, my parents told me not to do this, but I like it. It's cool. So it's like, let me well, they don't know what they're talking about.
Perfect example of that. First scratch ticket I bought. Now, there was no gambling in my house, no swearing, no drinking, none of that. It just wasn't, it was bad. That's all I knew. It's bad and it leads to bad thing. It leads to this, and it's bad. So first scratch ticket I bought, $5 ticket, hit $500. Mom and Dad, look, see, it works. First time I went to the casino, it was a boss of mine at the time. Yeah, we're going here, Tim. You know what? You can borrow $100. If you win, pay us back. If not, no big deal. Came back with like $1,500. And I'm like, Mom and Dad, look, you can go to the casino and win money. Look, I'm proof. So it just was that. Like, I was almost proving my case that they didn't know what they were teaching. I knew better.
Right.
At 18, I knew better. And I was proving it. And I was so smart. So, the martial arts kind of stopped at that point, and I started bartending. And never had good luck picking great girls because I wasn't really in the best space either. So the girls that I would date were also, drinking and out at the bars and partying, staying up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And, just not living that lifestyle, which and a big part of it for me was I wanted to be the cool kid. I wanted to be like the crazy kid because I was homeschooled, and it's like I don't want that stigma of being like the weird homeschooled kid.
Right.
I'd rather be the crazy
And
homeschooled kid
stand out.
and stand out for being like, oh, that's the crazy kid. Like that's not the weirdo homeschooled kid.
Mm,
So that was always me trying to be cool, trying to, show off a little bit, like a little too much confidence, overconfident,
yeah.
possibly conceited. But yeah, I mean, I was just being wild.
I mean, probably a little bit of like, trying to find some external um, approval of some
hmm
sort, right?
Yeah, trying to find a group of friends that like, just always trying to kind of fit in a group and like be accepted and be liked. That
Hmm.
was really it. That's what it for me. That's really what it came down to, being liked.
Yeah.
Um, and if ever, the group that did drugs kind of liked everybody that did drugs together. It's like you go out and you party and you do drugs. It's like everybody kind of likes you and you're accepted because you're doing it together.
Right.
Um, and the pain pills kind of stayed with me the whole time. Like I did this and did that and like, okay, whatever. But the pain pills kind of stayed the whole time.
Mm.
Um,
Just somewhat manageable.
yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
never got to the point where I was out of control. I mean,
Mm.
it did eventually, but at this point, it was like, okay, my parents are starting to worry. Things are starting to happen. This is the biggest thing. This was one of the biggest red flags. Was it was a friend's 21st birthday, and there was a big kegger going on that night, and I
Hmm.
was probably 21 myself, something like that, and I was bartending at the time,
Hmm.
and at 10:30, 11, I got called in for like a lunch shift. I get there, no one no one ended up coming in, so like, yep, you're cut, no big deal. I'm like, all right, well, I'll take my shift drink. It's noon on a Saturday. I'll take my shift drink now. So I had my shift drink. Then I went to a cookout until like 3. I was drinking there. Then my buddy called me and he's like, "Hey, let's go pregame, and we'll go pick up Jaeger bombs or whatever before the party." Okay, so we drove, whatever, drove around, got those. Then we went to the party and drank there. Then now it's like 10 o'clock. My keys were taken away from me, but it's like, "Hey, let's go downtown." All right, so we go downtown. We're drinking there. Let's go back to the party. So now it's like 2:33 in the morning. I had been drinking for a solid 14 hours. Not belligerent crazy, but like, I mean, I had been drinking for 14 hours.
Right.
I was going to, bet somebody on a beer pong game. Somebody was like, all right, I'll play. So I grabbed my keys from my friend, ran, jumped over a fence, got in my car because I was going to go to the ATM and take out all this money to bet on this game. Just crazy. I made it like a quarter mile down the street, slammed my car into a tree,
Mm.
totaled the car, airbags went off, and the guy in the tree was like right next to the road. I didn't go up on somebody's lawn, but he came running out. "You guys always hit this tree. You always hit this tree." And I had beer in the trunk. It broke, so there was beer pouring out of my trunk. The cops pulled up. They said, "Look, just go with your friends." I called my friends. They came. They were on the other side of the street. Cop was like, "Look, just we don't like the airbags deployed. You became loopy. Go with your friends. Go home." I woke up the next morning like, "Where's my car?" And yeah, I mean, and that was one of the big red flags of like, to my my parents, it's like, you
Yeah.
drunk driving totaled your car.
But for you, it was just like, hey,
For me,
nothing
I didn't get
happened.
hurt. I ended up getting an insurance check, and ended up the whole story with that too was I had driven my first car down to Florida. It died in Florida. I sold it in Florida, blew the money, came back, got this car. A month later, drunk driving, crashed it, got an insurance check, and bought a new car. And this was just, it was like this Superman complex. Like I have no
um,
consequences,
yeah, unstoppable.
unstoppable, and mix that with
It's
young and with
dangerous.
my personality. And it was just wild.
Right.
So now at this point, I got into a relationship with this girl, and we were
Mhm.
both, doing the pain pills together, and it just was not healthy. It was not a good relationship. I mean,
Mhm.
neither of us really cared that much about the relationship. We were really just getting high.
Mhm.
Um, and martial arts ended up coming back into my life. I had a job offer from a previous employer. He said, "I want you to work for me. Come back to the dojo, and I want you to work for me." And I was like, "Wow!" At this point, I was actually going downhill pretty fast. Like
Mm.
I had no car. The pain pills were out of control. At this point, I had already been onto some stronger things. And
And what about your family? The relationship with them?
yeah, I mean, that at this point, it was pretty much like I had no key to the house.
Mm,
I was not allowed to go to the house. Like my family was there for me. If I called, they would answer,
yeah.
but I didn't
They
make an
had
effort.
their
Yeah, I
barriers.
wasn't allowed to live at home. I wasn't living at home. I hadn't been living at home for a while.
Right.
Um, and yeah, it was, I mean, I'll never forget that day. It was like, Tim, we need your house key and you can't come to the house. You know, if you come to the house, we will call the cops.
Wow.
But if I ever called, they answered. You know, like they loved me, they cared about me, and I knew that. It was never like, we hate you, we can't stand you,
Yeah,
don't
of
ever come
course
around
not.
here.
Right.
They were still very loving, but they were creating healthy boundaries to protect themselves from me.
Mm,
I was a liability. So martial arts came back and I started working there, and I knew I needed to stop these
mm,
drugs because I love martial arts and teaching kids. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. I
mhm.
need to get better. My girlfriend at the time was like, yeah, do it. And so I kind of came clean to my parents. We found a good rehab facility for me to go to, and I went. And still, I was kind of like, I'll know what to say. I'll know what to say. I'll know how to say it. I'll be there for like 30 days. I'll get out. I'll be fine. I'll get my job. Everything will be great. And I mean, long story short, I go down there and the place did their job. Like, no, we want you here at a longer period. You should go to a sober house. They gave me a plan, a good, healthy plan for me to get clean.
Mhm.
Um, and they communicated that with my parents. They're like, no, 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 he shouldn't be here for this time. He needs to accomplish this, this, this. And they're the
Yeah.
professionals. So my parents listened to them.
And they were probably like just learning how to, I mean, with them being religious and I mean, I don't think this is something that's very common in their family.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was all new to them.
100%.
Right.
Yep. So they're fun. This is when my parents both really got educated by a professional.
Yeah.
Like, look, your son is manipulating you. You can't
Mm.
give him anything. They never just handed me out money and stuff, but I worked them certain
Yeah.
ways. And it was like, no, you kind of have to put your foot down. You can't enable him. This is what you need to do. And my parents did it, which is the good. I mean, you should listen
I'm
to a
sure it was not
professional.
easy for them.
No, you should listen to a professional recovery counselor over your drug addict son
Mhm.
anytime. Any parents out there, that's what you should do. Even though it's harder
It's
than it
hard,
sounds. It sounds
right?
easy,
Mhm.
but so all I knew now is I need to stay here for like another 6 months.
Mhm.
I had no contact with my girlfriend at the time, and we left the facility one day a week, and we would go to this meeting outside the facility. So we're driving along, we're in this van, and I look out the window. I'm looking, my girlfriend is in the car next to us, driving with her dad, you know, waving to me. And I'm like, whoa, what are they doing? They're like, does she live here? I'm like, no, we're in another part of the country. What is she doing here? I don't know. So we pull up. Long story short, it was like, hey, your parents want you to be here for this long. That's fine. You did your 30 days, come back. You got a plane ride to come back. You got a ride to come back now. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Go inside. So at that point, they're like, oh, well, he's not coming. Come on. So they left. So the next morning, now all night, I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, I can't get back. Maybe I can use her for a plane ride back. So that was my master plan. I'm not going to be with her because now I had 30 days of some recovery. And I was like, okay, she's bad news for me. I'm in an unhealthy, codependent relationship.
But I mean, you probably didn't really realize that like right now. You probably thought it's like, okay, yeah, she's no good for me. But the whole codependency, I feel like, I mean, were you very aware of that at
I
that
mean, I
point?
knew it, but I probably didn't fully grasp it. I mean,
Right.
I knew that. I'm like, yeah, I'm in an unhealthy relationship. This girl's no good for me.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I probably didn't label it.
Do you think that you had reservations going back? Or you saw yourself like, okay, I'm going to get back just with her just to get a plane ride back and then I'm going to be good.
That was my plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm,
And that's how I tried to spin it to my counselor. And I mean, I believed it.
right.
I wasn't trying to go back to my lifestyle. I didn't like it. I wasn't
Mm,
happy doing what I was doing. So no, I 100%, that night I went to my counselor, or the next morning I went to my counselor, and I'm like, look, this is what I want to do. I'm sure you heard my girlfriend showed up, because they even came back to the facility, and it was this big uproar. I
wow.
mean, they were like threatened that, that the cops will be called if they even step foot on the premise. It was a big deal. So I told him, I said, I'm sure you heard my girlfriend, is here. I'm going to use her for the plane ride back. I know I shouldn't be with her and I'm not going to be with her and I'm going to be fine, but I'm leaving. And he's like, well, you have to talk to your parents. So I let my parents know and, broke their heart.
Mm.
But I'm like, no, look, it's fine. I'm going to come back. I'm going to work. I'm not going to be with her. Literally that night, I was at the casino with her, like drinking and just being crazy that night. Came back, wouldn't get my job back because I didn't complete a successful treatment. When I left, that counselor said, and I'll never forget this, he said, sure, Tim, I've been doing this for 25 years. You have the right to leave. You go right ahead. Just understand, if you leave today, you're going to end up in one of three places. You will either be in jail, dead, or back in a rehab in 6 months. Within 3 months, I had already committed a crime and was in prison. So he was right. I literally went right back to what I was doing, just even worse. And yeah, I was in prison within 3 months after that. But that is surprisingly where I really grew the most, which is, I know it's weird. You don't really think of that, but I had time away from everything. I had time to think. It was structure. I thrive on structure.
Right.
It was structure. It was discipline. I was working out. I've always been physical. And there was I was in that rehab and 3 months later I was in prison. So it's I was at least able to take some of the things I learned. And now I had a few years to sit and think about it and grow a relationship with my family again. And my parents, my mom said she had the best sleep of her life knowing where I was. I was somewhere, I might not be the safest in the world, but I'm probably safer than where I had been the previous 7 years. I actually met some good people, some people that I talked to and we have over to our house, to this day. Really good people. So yeah, that's where I really actually kind of did some of my own inside thinking and growing and maturing.
That's actually where you got the idea for the name of this podcast.
That's where I came up that's where I came up with Talking Yourself Off a Ledge. It was a book that I had an idea of and I had chapters and it was like a self motivation, talk, overcoming obstacles in your life. And doing it through, because again, I'm sitting in prison with myself and I'm kind of looking back and it's yes, I had family and I had these people, but really when it comes down to it, the only person that can stop me is me. It's the only person that really has control over me is me.
Right.
Can I stop myself? Can anybody stop themselves when it comes to a point where you want to go left, you should go right.
Right. And doing it for yourself, giving yourself a break and going a different route than what you're used to.
Yeah. So I was there for a few years.
Yeah.
I got out and I was in a halfway house and I met you instantly. Literally my first day out because, okay, now I need to find a job. Now this is where I went wrong. I had reservations of, yes, I can't do drugs. Drugs are bad. I will not do drugs. That's the downfall, but I can drink.
But not right away, because when we first met, you weren't drinking either.
Well, I couldn't. In the halfway house, I couldn't. That was one of the rules.
But then afterwards, they didn't really stop you.
No. Once I cracked the door.
Right.
So yeah, no, I was actually really good for a good period of time because I was there for almost a year and a half.
I actually remember one night I was up to no good. I was in a really bad place. And I was trying to decide whether I should go to the bar or just go home. And I remember you telling me, you're just go home.
Yep, just go home.
I
There's nothing good for you out there.
I know. And
just
I wish I
home.
would. Yeah, I unfortunately didn't listen to you. And I kept on with what I was doing. But you were definitely in the right path. And I feel like that's why you were so attractive to me at the time, because your positivity and your energy, and you just had this appreciation for life that I didn't. That's not where I was at all.
Yeah.
And you were just always very honest with your story, and I thought it was very it was really inspiring and refreshing.
I felt that way. Like I
Yeah.
felt open and fresh and like I felt good. I felt healthy and I was healthy, you know.
Ready to start life again.
Start working. I remember one of the craziest things was like we were working at this restaurant
Hmm.
and I remember like them cutting people and people were begging to be cut. It's like, "Oh, cut me first. I want to go." Like I'm thinking, "Why are you even here if you don't want to work?" Like, "I'll stay." Yeah, I'll stay. You want me to come in the morning too? Yeah. Like, why doesn't anybody want to work? Like, do you guys not care about money? Kind of, you know?
Mm.
Um, but yeah, and so I was good for probably a good 7, 8 months out of that time. And then, yeah, then it was like, well, it's Halloween and there's a party here at work and I'll have one beer and they won't know. And what just starting to manipulate the system.
Mhm.
And
And
again,
you get
once,
a little, I think it's also like getting a little bit away from the structure and the
hmm
rules and the limitations, and then it's like you get a little further and further away, and it's like you start feeling more normal, and everybody around you is drinking and having a good time, and
hmm
you're the same age as you, so it's like why wouldn't you be part of that?
yeah, I
And
hadn't
it goes back
created,
to the whole like wanting to be part of the group, right?
yep, definitely.
Yeah.
I hadn't created those I hadn't created the structure and the self control in myself yet. Like I had
Mhm.
it pushed on me and I thrived like in prison and in the sober house, in the halfway house. Like I had it pushed on me and I thrived there, but I hadn't implemented it myself. Like I
Mm.
wasn't accountable to myself yet.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I'll drink, whatever. I'm 27. What am I never going to drink again? Like that's crazy.
Right.
Now I'll be happy to never have a drink again. That's for sure. I'm loving it. But yeah, so I got out of the halfway house and I was drinking and a little bit here and there, but nothing crazy. But again, that door was open. So it just led me back down that path. And it wasn't long until I kind of fell on my face again.
Mm. I feel like I was responsible for that. I know
There's only one person responsible for
I
somebody.
know, but
Yeah.
of course I always like to take people's actions on myself. Like I'm responsible for it for some reason. But that's just my own problems, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm at fault. It's my, whatever. But I definitely felt guilty in the beginning because like I knew I was in a bad place. And when I met you, you seemed like you had it all put together, you know?
hmm
And when things got bad, and it kind of just blindsided me too, because like I was still kind of um I was new to opiates. Like I didn't really understand. I didn't know a lot of information about it. Like
hmm
so I just yeah, I didn't know much about it. So like I couldn't really see the signs or really understand like what you were going through, like what your mind was kind of what was happening in your mind when we were out and kind of just partying. It
hmm
like your mind just kind of reverted back to that old state of mind
hmm
basically.
hmm Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Um, and when that happened, when I did, fall down on my face, and
mm,
I came clean to my parents,
yeah.
and I had no health insurance. I had nothing. I didn't know where any treatment centers were. I didn't care about any of that, but I knew like I need help and I'm not good.
Mhm,
And they actually helped. They're like, okay, we're going to get you health insurance and we're going to find a state run facility and you're going to go. And I'm like, all right. And
mhm,
it took me a few times. Like I literally went to a detox, left in 7 days, and went right back out.
mhm,
And then after 2 months, I went back into detox and they said, all right, we told you to go to a treatment last time. You didn't go to the treatment. Are you going to go this time? And I'm like, all right, I guess I should. Went to the 30-day treatment,
mhm,
got out, did great for 9 months.
mhm.
And then again, relapsed and
But
went back.
sorry, but it's like I want to bring it back to like not picking and choosing their recommendations, right?
Right. Well, it was taking the minimum each time.
Right.
I would like, yeah, I'll take this, but I don't need that.
Because like they also recommend it's like people, places, and things. And at the
hmm
time, unfortunately, I was one of those people that you probably shouldn't have been around.
hmm
And the codependency, and I think that's kind of what drove us each to kind of like use
Yeah.
eventually.
And that's when it came up this time, because the first time I went to detox and left, back to detox, they're like, all right, we told you to go treatment.
Right.
I'm like, all right, fine. Then when I went to treatment, they said you need to go to a sober house. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. They're like, okay, I'm gonna go live with my girlfriend, the girlfriend that you were getting high with. I'm like, yeah. They're like, you realize that's not a good idea. It'll be fine. And
She's trying to get help too.
right, she's when we
We
did
were
good.
trying,
No, like
yes.
9 months, we did
Yes.
pretty good. Like we
Yeah.
started going to meetings, we started like we were good. It's just still a lot of codependency.
And for me, I was still so new. I hadn't gotten to the point that I accepted the fact that I had a problem,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then so after those 9 months, back into the same treatment, which this treatment was not like the first rehab I went to was this really nice, expensive treatment facility down south in the sun, like your own apartment. Like it was beautiful. This one that I went to was not even technically an inpatient treatment center. It was a homeless shelter. It was deemed a homeless shelter slash outpatient treatment center for literally people that were like flagged from going to treatments too much.
Wow.
Their insurance wouldn't cover it. So they had to deem it a homeless shelter slash outpatient. And this is where I got clean. Like this is where it like I went twice. I did 2 rounds there, and like great counselors. And yeah, then that's finally that second time they're like, yeah, going to live with your girlfriend didn't work out well, did it? And I'm like, no. They're like, you're gonna go to a sober house now? And I'm like, I guess so. Like they're like, all right, good. It was the first time I had literally taken all the suggestions and did what I was told and tried it their way, and didn't try to work the situation, didn't try and scam anything, didn't try and manipulate it at all. So I went to that sober house and I did what they told me to do. Like I went to meetings and I did my chores and I was home during curfew and I just did what I was supposed to do. And I actually struggled to find a job, which for the first time in a long time, I struggled to find a job. And the owner of the sober house is an incredible guy. And he's like, I kept going up to him every week and I'm still looking. And he's like, he put up his hands one day. He's like, I know. I don't have to worry about you. You're coming to seek me out to let me know. It's the ones that don't come to talk to me that I have to worry about. I know I don't have to worry about you. Just keep doing what you're doing. I was like, oh, well, okay. Like people notice when you do the right thing.
You were volunteering at the soup
kitchen. Yep. I was just starting to I was back in that frame of mind, like when I was in prison, but now I had a little more freedom and I was starting to implement some of those things, accountability to myself more.
Right.
So I've ended up getting a good job, and I just started working. I still went to meetings. You were doing better also. And I just was in that sober house for like a year and a half and just doing what I was supposed to do. Kind of became a little bit of a role model there too. I saw a lot of guys come and go, guys get kicked out. And I just didn't want that anymore. Like I knew I couldn't drink.
Right.
And I was okay with that. I'm like, all right, I can't drink anymore. Cause look, I did it and it didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Like I almost, you have to touch the red stove to know it's hot kind of person. I've probably done that at one point in my life.
I am laughing because I actually did that.
Yeah. We're both very much like that. I'm not going to do it because you said I'll test
it's like,
that out.
You just told me not to. Oh,
yeah. So yeah, this is really when I started implementing those things. And like, I saved up enough money and moved out, got my own apartment, had my own car, a loan in my name that I was paying on time, utilities in my name that I was paying on time, credit card, like starting to build my credit.
I remember that. I was so proud of you.
Yeah, it's such a great, fulfilling feeling. Like it's just completely different. Like they call it getting high, but it's really not. It's you're really getting low. Like it's really what it is. And it's really like being clean and successfully having responsibilities and accomplishing goals and finishing tasks that gets you high. Succeeding a plan is probably one of the best highs, at least for me. I mean, it may not be everybody, but for me, that is one of the best highs that you can get. Like even our relationship, growing our relationship over time, and like where we've gotten to through not just luck, like it's been hard work.
It definitely has. I mean, because I remember even when of course, like I wanted you to live with me, right? But then, of course, at that point, I was doing a little bit better, and I wanted to live with you. But then I was always kind of fearful that we could, screw up again, and we'll be right back to it. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember like thinking that you getting your own apartment was like a very important part of
Mm-hmm.
your life that you should experience,
Mm-hmm.
like have that responsibility. And because I mean, I feel the same way. Like it feels good to have your own things
Yep.
that you've worked for.
Pay your own bills, have your own
Yes.
responsibilities,
Yeah.
rely on yourself.
I mean, and it's more satisfying when like you put in the work and it's like paying off. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to just kind of sit in your own space and it's like this is mine.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an awesome feeling. So I was really happy for you when you had that apartment,
Yeah.
and then that's when we got to the point that we were able to move in together.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of summarize it all up and say like where I am now. I mean, I could do more for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel comfortable and content and safe with myself, with my own head. Like I just went on a little trip over this past weekend
Hmm.
with another guy who he does drink. Like, that's about it. He's a good, responsible guy. Um, but like I hadn't really done that in a long time. And there wasn't a large part of me. It was very, very, very small. It's like not that I didn't want to go get a beer or do anything, but it's like I know I can make it through this weekend and be completely fine. But like the old me is still inside of me. Like
Hmm.
I'm liable to revert back to old ways. I'm
Right.
not immune to that.
Hmm.
But at the end of it, it was like, wow, this is great. Like I literally did exactly what I said I was going to do. I don't have to worry and lie about anything.
Hmm.
I don't need to look over my shoulder because somebody might find out I did something wrong. Like I was happy in doing what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
um it's nice to be able to do that, which sounds so crazy, I guess, like for some people, like, so well, yeah, but to live with looking over your shoulder and manipulating things for so long,
Yeah.
to not have to worry about that
Right.
is awesome. It's
Just
great.
being honest and doing the right thing,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah, it sounds so easy, just be honest and do the right thing, that's all. But no, it's hard work to have that
Yeah.
impulse control and self-control. Now I don't even really have the impulses. And that
Hmm.
is the nice thing. It's like enough time of learning and practicing this stuff. The impulses don't really come. Like I don't think about going to get high really ever.
Yeah.
Um yeah, really ever. Like I don't have that desire where I need to fit in. Some of it might come with age a little bit too, but like I'm just more content and happy with my life today that I don't
Hmm.
care if somebody doesn't really like me. I mean, I still struggle with it every once in a while. Like
Right.
I'll like a little flash here and there, and like I might want to have the cool one of these and the cool one of that. But overall, like it's not near the top of my list. I care more
Hmm.
about what you think about me than other people. I mean, and I hear somebody say that all the time. He goes, "The only person that I care that what they think about me is my wife," and it's true.
Yeah.
That's the only person. My mom. That's important
Yeah.
too. My parents, But well, no, when it comes down to it, really, it's all me. It's like I care
Yeah.
what I think about myself
Yeah.
in a good, healthy way. Cause like at the end of that trip, same thing. Like I felt good about myself because I made the right decisions. Like
Hmm.
I did what I said I was going to do. And I had pride in that.
Yeah. And I think that was like a big part of our relationship too, because um like you said, it's like you haven't actually really done that
Mm-hmm.
before. And I feel like a few years back when we were still codependent, um you going on a trip would make me feel like, oh, I need to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that was not the case at all. Like I was so happy that you were going and spending this time with your friend, who I know, and I think, and I trust you today. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that took work, it took
Took
work.
years of work.
It took years of work because I mean, just with what we've gone through, past experiences, and with trust. So it was definitely it definitely took work. Um, but seeing how I felt happy for you, and I felt comfortable just staying home. I mean, just it was nice. It was
Hmm.
really, I think it it told me a lot about where we are in our relationship,
Hmm.
and I like it.
It reminded me when I was in prison and I was on the phone with my dad, and my parents had, I think it was one of their wedding anniversaries. And I was like, Dad,
Mm,
how do you do it? You know, it was like, I don't even know how many years it was. I'm not going to say, I don't remember, but I don't want to get it wrong. But I'm like, how do you do it? How do you stay married that long? Like, how do
yeah.
you do that? How do you stay so devoted and just do that? He's like, trust, trust, trust. It's
Mm,
all about trust.
it's true.
It's true.
I love your parents.
Yeah, they're
I
great.
really
They're
I
great. They're
love
great.
them.
And so now to revert back, it's like all those times of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, see, mom and dad, I know best. It's like now it's come full circle. And like I say things that I've heard my parents say over and over. Like I
Yeah,
live the way my parents taught me to live, even though I thought I knew so much better. So, yep. And that's me.
that's awesome. Like I said, I love your story, and I just appreciate you so much. I'm really glad that you were able to share your story. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.